Hello, my name is Kyle Matthews. I'm Executive Director of the Montreal Institute for Genocide and Human Rights Studies. We're very pleased today to be doing a series of interviews for the OSCE's Office for Media Freedom on artificial intelligence, disinformation, and the COVID crisis to kind of understand what's happening in the on the internet about disinfo, particularly around COVID or the time of COVID, and what are some of the tools available to deal with this? And so I'm very lucky today to be joined by Ather Gattami. He's a senior researcher and head of dynamics at RISE, the Research Institute of Sweden. Ather, wonderful to have you today to join us from Gothenburg.
Thank you, Kyle. It's a pleasure.
So, Ather, I first wanted to ask you, you came across our radar. You're doing really interesting work, and it came across us, your project, FactChecking AI. Maybe you would like to start with this and tell us about what is this project and what gave impetus to its development and its current implementation. What are you trying to do, and what spurred you to actually develop this?
As people probably have noticed for the last 4 or 5 years, we've had the problem with the disinformation and the so-called fake news, as was named by someone. This is, of course, problematic because I think it has been a long time ago since we really started to question science. I mean, it has, got to it's not even silly, it's more like dangerous level where people are questioning the roundness of Earth. There's this flat Earth movement, and when it comes to that level where there is always an alternative fact, it's really dangerous. Then basically people can believe whatever they want to believe. And so from that perspective, this problem was really important. It's interesting scientifically, and it's very hard. And this is why we started to look at it. Actually, I started to look at it with my startup that I had at the time. It was hard to get really media to invest in it, which is, I still think, is a mistake, because they don't know that even their business is actually moving. I think if they would move into tech and call themselves a tech company, this is exactly what they should provide. It's not about that they are a channel, because there are much faster channels nowadays. It's really about their credibility, that they actually make sure that the information they provide is as correct as possible. Of course, we know that we can't always make sure that this happens, but we can make sure that we are doing our best to have the right information provided to the public. So now I started to do some research and apply it with some funding. It wasn't actually a minor funding, because at the end of the day, you really need to have media, investing in that. But more from intellectual technology point of view, we're thinking about what we can do today. AI is not a mature technology, so what can we do today with the existing technology? And there are many ways to look at it. You can look at it from source perspective, how you can actually detect the source of information. You can detect the credibility of the source in terms of who's writing the article, but also you can do fact checking. Really making sure. So I know that I've been in a conversation with a friend, who has been worse, Hitler or Stalin? Who killed more people? And just such a discussion, it's very hard to to assess which one is right at the moment. You need to do a lot of research. I would like to have a system, checking a statement like Stalin killed more people, more people than Hitler, which I believe is incorrect and turns out to be incorrect. But you needed to do some research. I would like to have a system that provides an answer whether this is correct or not.
So in the work that you're doing to fact checking AI, there's something on your website. You say that AI is more precise than a million people, and I think this is what a lot of people talk about, is that the ability to that AI can do things that humans can't. We don't have the human resources to cover everything online. So this tool that you're building is developed in order to do that. How will this be deployed? I know the project is not over. You're in the midst of it, but is this a tool that's going to be made available to anyone in Sweden or across Europe, or how do you envision this tool being deployed?
So the vision is, of course, we are far from there because we need resources. That's really the biggest issue. But if it would ever be completed, then there are actually two ways. We have been thinking about the ethical part of it, because it's dangerous in the sense that just imagine someone, some extremist looking for a certain statement, and they just happen to get support for some question that is unclear. Because you can look at things differently. This could also be misused. So we're thinking maybe to start with, it should be a support to journalists, because they are experts. They can handle the data and the information probably in a more professional manner. And then in a more controlled way, you could probably release it to the public. There are things you can watch political debates, and I think that's in every country, including open society like Sweden, where democracy has gone very far, where you see politicians throwing numbers left and right. And these things could be easy to check. It just turned out that there is no support for these numbers. I think this is very easy to build, and it would be useful to people. Just like, okay, what are the bases for such a statement? We see there are no bases, and then so this is where we envision that where it could be used first and foremost for journalists. But of course, the dream is to make it available for the public, because it has also an educational value.
Yeah. And you also mentioned that part of the project is looking at videos, so not just written text or statements, but videos. And I'm wondering, does that include, because there's a lot of talk about deepfakes. I'm wondering if that's something you envision your work doing, is looking at altered videos to see like what is real and what's not, because there's a lot of people talking about this infodemic and the alteration of videos to trick people or misinform them. Is this something that's on the horizon?
This actually was also part of the project where we were designing what should, because this project is supposed to be in several phases, and the phase we're at, we're trying to look for some companies or media interested in investing, because these are the conditions to apply for the funding, as simple as that. And deepfakes was one of them, because it's really scary. We can really see how, before, seeing was believing. If you go to, before, when you went to court, you had someone on the record, that was a proof. This will definitely not be the case in 5 years. That's for sure, unless we have some technology to detect the deep fakes. And as of today, we don't really know. But we really need to understand how these deepfakes are generated, maybe we can see some pattern where it can be easy to detect. And it's a huge problem. This could be a huge problem. I mean, people are focusing on the wrong things, talking about robots taking over the world, human distinct. I think the danger is right there, where actually the human beings themselves were be the cause of the fall of the human race, because they will kill each other before the robots will kill the humans.
Ather, I'm wondering, are we seeing any forms of disinformation right now in Sweden, particularly on the internet, around COVID? Are you seeing through your work an acceleration of disinformation? I'm wondering what's happening on the internet where you're based.
Yeah, actually, you don't need advanced technology to detect such thing. It's all over Facebook. At least in the beginning, people just sharing information left and right. All these false statements, all these so-claimed doctors, claiming that this and that about COVID. So. And one of the reasons is simply people don't have an easy way to check the source. Just such thing. And it's actually people who are spreading the information. So it's not much intelligence beyond what is done, social media. There is, of course, intelligence in these algorithms that know what kind of groups and people they could target. That would be easy, targets to spread this misinformation. So, of course, this is an intelligent way of doing that, but detecting that wouldn't be a hard thing, and you can see it. And it's not only COVID, it's everything. You see it in Sweden. It's all political statements. We also have the far right conservatives who are like in many countries who are growing and actually spreading a lot of this and misinformation.
So Ather, this is interesting, because now you're touching upon something that's fundamental to the OSCE's mandate, and I'm talking about freedom of expression. And part of what I'm interested in is understanding the link to freedom of expression, especially when touching upon how AI is or may be used to confront COVID-related disinformation. So on one point, what is the role, from your view as a researcher in AI, of seeing the perspectives of content moderation of these tech companies, of removing disinformation online, taking it off? A lot of people say they're doing a bad job and that the business models actually promote that. But is there a danger in having these platforms controlling who can speak or not, or taking people offline? Is this something that you think is an ethical issue, and that you and your colleagues think about during your work?
I mean, this is probably not only my colleagues that are entitled to discuss this question. I think this is something that everyone could participate in. I'm not sure if I have a standing, because it is a difficult question. It is this, picture saying that you're driving. I mean, we always ask machines to do things that we cannot do. Like, you drive in a car, you have a baby in the car, and you're seeing an old man or woman crossing the street, and you have two options. You can avoid killing that old person, and then it means that you kill yourself and the baby in the car, or you kill the old person. So what should the car do if it's an autonomous car? Same thing when it comes to this question. One hand, what happens if extremists would spread lies and dangerous things? What should these companies? On one hand, they are private companies, so it's not a state. They can do whatever they want. on the other hand, saying that, but they are not to decide who expresses what. But then we have extremists on other side like ISIS, etc. Should they put their videos, killing people, etc.? Of course, I would say no, right away. No question. So, and it feels like, and I can give you another example, autonomous driving, because I've been working with it a lot. There was a smart man who said that it doesn't matter if we have autonomous cars and reduces the number of people killed in traffic from 1 million to 500,000. We will not get 500,000 thanks letters. We will get 500,000 suitcases. So I think it's more, there is always a different opinion, and people need to understand there are different opinions. And just everyone, playing being the righteous person, to judge other people and decisions. I think that Twitter, Facebook, they have been debating that for a long time, and it's been a hard decision for them, and they don't know what to do, when to do what. They've been criticized for not banning, now they've been criticized for banning. And actually, I understand both views. I don't know personally, so I think maybe we people need to agree on where the limit goes. So,
and I think that's coming to it, because it's some of this responsibility falls not just on the private sector, but on governments. Governments must uphold their laws. They must guarantee citizens have freedom of expression, but there are limits to hate speech or violent actions or inciting violence. We all know that's there's a fine line and that we shouldn't cross. And the same thing with disinformation. People can express certain things, but if it's purposely done to trick people, like we see foreign interference to trying to trick people to say the vaccine is not safe, in order that the population will get sick, and it gets into a strange geopolitics. But if I could talk about your project, what's interesting is that I don't think your project threatens freedom of expression using AI, because you're fact checking. You're not taking down accounts. You're looking for what accounts are real, if they're bots, who's spreading them, and I think that is a key thing for perhaps governments to look at. Do you think governments should be taking that approach? And
I think so. I did get in touch with so everything that has to do with media is under the Swedish, what do you call it, culture minister. And yes, it's interesting, but there is no room to spend. It's like, are you kidding me? I actually been in touch with the Swedish Defense Research Institute. Of course, they work with disinformation all the time. They didn't have time to spend on this, which is extremely weird, I would say. So I've been trying to reach out. They know about the problem. Nothing is happening. Why? I have no idea.
So this is interesting, is that part of your project talks about that this issue of disinformation, fake information online, is a global problem, but we need local solutions. And I think we see a disconnect sometimes, that there's more and more people realizing what's happening online is a threat to human rights, a threat to security, a threat to democracy, but yet our institutions seem to be moving very slow to try to mount a response. So this is kind of where I think we need, like, political will, someone up in government that says, hey, let's put some resources into this. Do you see? Sorry, Ather, please continue.
No, I was just, I support what you're saying. It's really like everything when it comes to AI, it needs to come from the top, and this is something that government can invest in, and it's actually not that much money compared to the cost that the society is paying due to these problems. So I'm just surprised. I don't know.
So you're surprised, I'm surprised, and I would argue it's similar in Canada. We're really starting to wake up and realize that, there's all sorts of nefarious stuff going on. Some citizens are being radicalized, taking crazy ideas. how can we do this? But there's also, I guess, a fear about clamping down too hard that would take away people's freedom of expression. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, working on AI, what is the best use of AI to deal with disinformation, but also guarantee freedom of expression? Should governments come up with some international agreement? Is it working more closely with tech companies in their own jurisdiction? What do you think is a strategy to deal with, to guarantee this freedom of expression, but also deal with a problem that we really is with misinformation, disinformation?
Yeah, I mean, actually, we have at least in the Swedish law saying that yes, you can say whatever you want, but you cannot, incite, harming people, etc. So this is forbidden. So you cannot say yes, those people should be burned to death, etc. That's a crime. So there's actually law, that forbids that. There's freedom of speech. Though the problem is that this law is not exercised that much, even like before disinformation, just in general. So maybe it's time to take it more seriously. Then people know. I mean, yes, you're allowed to express your opinions about me. I have a terrible moral. I do terrible things, etc., etc., etc. But it does not give you the right that you appear as a judge. If I really committed a crime, then there's a place for that. You cannot just take that decision for yourself. I think it's as simple as that. So I do believe in freedom of speech, but they're very clear. We know there's some extremists who express themselves in a very clear way at any direction. So whether it's religious or political or whatever. So that's, I think, to me, it seems to be not that hard if you take it seriously.
So, so basically, governments have to be a little more proactive. They need to put more resources at dealing with the issue of kind of governing cyberspace in their own jurisdictions, looking for disinformation, but they might not have the tools. So it sounds like what you're developing will be hopefully something that could be used by governments and the media to fact check and to kind of create a more stable cyberspace while guaranteeing freedom of expression.
Definitely, that's really the goal, and we need resources. The will is there. I think we have really looked at concrete solutions and not trying to do hard things that we don't know where it's going to lead, but actually identified existing technology that could make this happen. And we've been very careful. It should not be limiting people, or it should not be misused. And that's why we're targeting at least journalists. It's time for journalists to really go back to their real role. Try to tell the truth instead of just taking a position. And I would say that goes to all media, left and right, I have to say, where it has been more important to make a statement than tell the truth.
Ather, this has been
media though, so it's dangerous. I don't want to sound like other politicians. The media are not telling the truth. What I'm saying is that let's try to be less political and try to take sides less, and try to provide information and be open. So I still respect the media. I think they're doing a great job most of the time, but it's just, that's the environment right now, where because of some extreme part, other media is changing direction, trying to make a standpoint because they think this is so important, but I don't think it's productive.
Well, on that note, Ather, I'd really want to thank you for joining us, sharing your knowledge, and talking about a whole set of issues related to freedom of expression and AI and COVID disinformation. I look forward to following your project and seeing what comes out of it by 2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kyle. It's been a pleasure.